The Tree Hut Treaty by Wiremu Grace. Illustrated by Bruce Potter. Tia and Manaia looked up as a truck rumbled past their house. They heard it stop and sing beep, beep, beep as it backed into the driveway next door. They were getting new neighbours. They peeked through the fence beside the hutakawa tree. Some men jumped out of the truck and swung open the big back doors. They lifted out lots of boxes and heavy furniture. Then they took out a scooter and a trampoline. "They've got kids," whispered Tia. Later, Tia and Manaia were racing their bikes around the front lawn. "I'll beat you, Tia," Manaia shouted. "Will not," laughed Tia. "Hi guys," they heard someone call. Tia looked around and her bike wobbled to a stop. A girl was sitting on the fence, swinging her legs. She looked about Tia's age. There was a boy behind her, kicking a soccer ball around. "We've just moved in next door," the girl said. "I'm Crystal and he's Jack." Manaia rode over to the fence. "Have you guys got bikes?" he asked. "We're going to show you where everything is," Tia said. They biked past the school and down to the creek where some kids were looking for eels. They biked up to the sliding track where some kids were sliding down the grass on bits of cardboard. Manaia and Jack kept racing ahead to show how fast they could go. When they got home, they flopped down under the hutakawa tree in the shade. "It's a pretty big tree," said Crystal, touching the bark. "Dad says it's hundreds of years old," said Manaia. "Have you ever climbed to the top?" "No way! You'd need a ladder to get up that far," said Tia. "We've got a ladder in our new shed." Jack jumped up to get it. From up in the tree, they could see into everyone's backyards. "Look!" laughed Crystal. "That's Uncle Peter's washing. It's been blowing all over the place," said Tia. "Imagine if we could live up here," said Manaia. "We should build a tree hut," said Crystal. "Yeah, we should." First, they made the floor and walls out of the leftover packing cases. Crystal's dad gave them some iron for the roof. Tia's mum lent them a hammer and nails and checked that the floor was safe and solid. After a few days, the hut had turned into a real tree hut with walls, window holes, a doorway and a roof. They put some cushions inside it and hung material across the windows for curtains. It was fantastic. Everyone wanted to play in it. Jack and Crystal made lots of new friends. But soon the tree hut was so popular that it wasn't big enough for everyone. It was getting too crowded. One morning, Manaia looked out the window and saw Jack and some of his new friends hammering bits of wood onto the side of the hut. He ran outside. "What are you doing?" "Building another room on. It's too small. If it was bigger, more people could play in it," said Jack. "But it's not yours, and you didn't ask us if you could change it." "Why should we have to? It's our hut too." "But it's in our tree," Manaia shouted. "No, the tree's on our property too, and the tree hut's made of our wood, so that means it's ours." Manaia shook his head and went inside. He waited until Jack and Crystal had gone out for a bike ride. Then he climbed up the ladder to the tree hut. He pulled off the new pieces of wood that Jack had nailed there and knocked them down into Jack's yard. When Jack got home, he couldn't believe it. "He can't do that," he spluttered. "He's ruined all our hard work." He turned around in circles a few times and kicked at the bits of wood on the ground. Then he had an idea. He took the ladder down and locked it in the shed. Now no one could get up to the tree hut. After a weekend without the hut, Tia and Crystal dragged their brothers to a meeting at the creek. The hut wasn't much good if no one could use it. "What are we doing here anyway?" Jack frowned. "We've got an idea. We've been learning about the Treaty of Waitangi at school," said Tia. "What's that got to do with us?" Manaia interrupted. "The Treaty of Waitangi is like a list of promises between the British government and Māori," Crystal said. It was made up so that Māori and Pākehā could live together fairly. We think we need a treaty for our tree hut, Tia added. It will help us agree on how to look after the hut, and it will say what to do if we end up fighting again. Whatever, I just want the hut to be big enough, said Jack. That's fine, as long as you remember it's in our tree, said Manaia. Which is also on our side of the fence, said Jack. Mum says people don't actually own the land or the trees, sighed Tia. They just look after them. So what do you think? Asked Crystal. Finally, Manaia stood up. I'll give it a go, he said. He looked at Jack. All right, Jack shrugged. They went home and sat under the tree to talk about their treaty. Tia wrote the Tree Hut Treaty at the top of a piece of paper in blue felt pen. Okay, so what are the problems? Manaia wrecked the hut, said Jack. Jack changed it without asking, said Manaia. The hut's not big enough for everyone at once, said Crystal. Okay, so we need to say something about making decisions about the tree hut and not breaking it, and about taking turns, and about asking if you want to change it, said Tia. What if we don't agree? Why don't we get a team of people from both of our families to be in charge of sorting out any problems, Crystal suggested. Yeah, that's a good idea, said Tia. She held up the piece of paper. How's this? The Tree Hut Treaty. Number 1. We all have to come to agreement about what happens with the tree hut. Number 2. We all have to look after the tree and the tree hut. Number 3. If there are any fights about the hut, then the tree hut team will decide what to do so that it's fair for everyone. The next day, Tia invited all the parents and friends to a shared kai to tell them about the new treaty. Crystal held up the Tree Hut Treaty for everyone to see, and Tia explained, When you sign the Tree Hut Treaty, you're making a promise to look after the tree and the hut. You're agreeing to share the hut and to listen to the tree hut team if there are any arguments about it. When everyone had signed the treaty, Jack and Manaia stood the ladder back against the trunk. Tia nailed the treaty to the wall of the hut in the place that everyone could see.